ones. Wild ones. Believe it or not, folks, that's how President Obama described Republican spending yesterday. Listen.
I don't know how they've been bamboozling folks into thinking that they are the responsible, fiscally disciplined party. They run up these wild debts. And then when we take over, we got to clean it up. And they point and say, look how irresponsible they are. Look at the facts. Look at the numbers.
Hey, Ange, who's being bamboozled here?
You know, Eric, I don't know how he can stand in front of a crowd with any kind of intellectual honesty and say something like that. There has been no cleanup whatsoever. Now, I didn't have time to borrow your whiteboard today, and you've been busy, but this is a really, I think, low accounting trick that he's taking, right? It's the worst possible one. He's saying that 2009 spending levels belong to Bush. He's taking no responsibility for it, and if you look at it, the number has gone from 2.9 million and it stayed above $3.8 trillion, and the White House has estimated by 2017 it will go to $4.5 trillion. He hasn't brought the level of spending down. He's still spending at crisis levels now, and he's taking no responsibility for it.
You look upset. Hold on, but we'll get to you in a second. I know you're all jazzed up over there on something.
Here's the thing that irks me, and I don't use the word irk often because I don't know what it means. But President Obama is only cutting spending in an area that gave him his one and only victory. That is the military. It's like he's firing the one employee that saved his butt. I don't understand that logic.
Ungrateful.
Well, let's understand this logic. A guy by the name of Rick Nutter, who's associated with the Wall Street Journal, finally went back and looked hard at spending. George Bush, the last year, 18% increase in spending. Barack Obama in 2010, minus 1.8%. You all been shooting your mouths off here about how it's increased spending, and you're wrong.
All right, hold on.
Wrong.
I've saved you because I wanted to pull up this. Kimberly, weigh in on this. Hold on, put up the full screen, guys. Here's the real numbers. Those are the actual spending numbers by 4 of the last 5 presidents. Obama, $9.7 billion per day. George Bush, $6.8 billion per day. Clinton, $4.1 billion per day. Ronald Reagan, $2.5 billion per day. So any way you slice it, that is bamboozle, disingenuous, call it what you want. It's a lie.
It's not. It is. First of all, those numbers are. You've built in inflation. Those numbers. Every president increases.
No,
wait. Stop with the inflation. If I could get my article, which I've been asking for, but I can't.
He just claimed that he's the slowest increase in spending. It's BS. Go ahead, Kimberly.
He cut 1.8% in spending. Now that comes from the Wall Street Journal. You want to argue with Rupert Murdoch and his paper?
First of all, it's CBS Markets Watch, which is owned by the Dow Jones, which also owns the parent network of the Wall Street Journal.
And by the way, I own all of it.
By the way, I love that we own everything. I think it's really.
Well, so how can you just dismiss figures that you come up with these numbers?
Here's how it happened. Here's exactly what happened. They said at the beginning of 2009, President Obama had to spend on stimulus. We're not going to count that. He had to spend on other initiatives. We're not going to count that. We're going to start here and talk about the increase.
Okay,
well, if you count that,
so Nutter's lying. The Wall Street Journal guy's lying. He's lying.
Absolutely mispinformed.
Right at the beginning of his first term.
Good.
Bob. Focus, eyes on mama.
Yeah.
$900 billion spent on stimulus right in the beginning of his term.
And he cut a lot of spending beyond that.
Yeah, but
a lot.
Okay, take the stimulus aside. Take TARP 2 aside, which Obama's responsible for. We are still spending at historic levels.
Every president spends at historic levels because
I thought he didn't spend.
If you spend money, look, just in entitlement programs alone, Social Security and Medicare increased by the cost of living increase, which should not be the case, but they do. Every president, it goes up. It just does.
Wait, you just admitted that it went up.
Of course it goes up with entitlement spending, but in terms of the domestic spending, the discretionary spending in the budget, he has spent much less than George Bush.
And by the way, we're borrowing $1 trillion a year.
By the way, you know what George Bush never did? He never counted his wars in his budget.
Everyone calm down. The spending is going up. The percentage of GDP is going up as well.
I get my article, please.
This is what makes me so pessimistic. Is the fact that we just can't get along. But no, I'm pessimistic about both parties and the fact that a junkie only stops using its junk until the junk runs out. And you look at what's happening around the world, and people are just spending until they can't spend anymore. And I get the feeling that's what's going to happen to us. We won't stop spending until we run out.
What are you talking about, junk in the trunk?
Okay.
Are you talking to me?
You're right, Eric. We already did run out of money.
Can I just read you this Wall Street Journal guy, the headline, Obama spending binge never happened. Commentary, government outlays rising at slowest pace since 1950s.
As long as you're using a high basis, it's a here's the example. Kimberly went from spending $10 to $11 or $10 to $12. You went from spending $15 to $16.
Excuse me.
I went from spending
$500,000
to $501,000. The rate is lower. It's slower, but I'm spending like crazy.
Mr. Nutter, he's just called you a liar, so if you want to defend yourself, please do.
That's as Andrea pointed out, that's editorializing. It's the comments. So there you go.
Well, here's the issue. Thatcher said you eventually run out of other people's money. And as Greg pointed out, we're going to get to that point, and then the left is going to cry foul, just like Bob's doing when we talk about Europe cutting spending. It's going to hurt. They're going to go further into a recession.
And they don't have an economic program or a good record to run on now, because now he's actually president. So we had 3 years of nonsense. So guess what? The best way we vote for me, Greg.
You have sat around. Everybody has sat around this table and said that Barack Obama was a big spender, and these facts prove that he was
just a big spender.
I'd agree with that.
You're making a very, very good point. President Bush was the biggest spender of all time, but in 8 years of Bush presidency, he tacked on less than $5 trillion in debt. In 3.5 years of Obama, he's tacked on more than $5 trillion. How can the world claim you're not a spender?
Bush spent a lot. Obama spent more. Much more. Quadrupled it.
It is flat wrong.
I just want to know if Greg will let us leave.
I'll say it over and over again.
Can we leave?
Can we leave?
You're the czar of tease outs.
I will say this. He needs to keep spending because the slogan is a vote for me is a vote for free.
Correct.
There you go.
And Republicans are start telling the truth.
Should the Obama administration try to help the Pakistani doctor who helped us get bin Laden? If we don't, he may spend the rest of his life in jail. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Come stand a little bit closer, breathe in and get a bit higher. You'll never know what hit you.